there, listeners. Hi, you've found the red rabbit hole again. What are you doing coming back? You're a glutton for punishment. So this is part 2 of our discussion, me and the lovely Lisa Shepherd, talking about my book, The Brother and the Golden State Killer case that inspired it. And we're going to do something a little bit different on the second half. Lisa, are you there?
Hello, I'm here, back down the red rabbit hole once again.
Hi, what's it like down here? Have you been here the whole week?
I got out briefly, but then I've come straight back in again.
Yeah.
Yeah. How's your week been?
My week has been good. Again, I've started a new book, so it's all go from this side. And what about you? How's your rats getting on?
They're all right. They're good. They're settling in. They're fun little things. They can zoom about super fast. And I got them a wheel today. And anyone who is fans of rats out there, I got them a big wheel. It is 16 inches wide. I'm only saying that because there's a bit of it has to be a particularly big wheel for rats. They will use it, but it has to be really big for them because of the size of them, and it can cause back problems if you have one that isn't the right size for them. So I'm just any fans of rats out there. I was like, no, I have got the right size wheel for them, and they're loving it. Yeah, they get on their little wheel and they have a little run round.
So all the other rats are going to have wheel envy then.
Yeah,
the size of their wheel.
Yes, they have a big. You've got to have a big wheel if you're going to have them. They can't kind of use like a hamster-sized one. It has to be. Has to be a big wheel, and I've had to tempt them on, so I have to put this little treat that they like and kind of put it on the wheel going round, so it makes them run. So they run a bit, oh treat, run a bit, oh treat, run a bit, oh treat.
That sounds like my life. I get on the wheel because I get a little treat.
Actually, that's how my week has felt. Getting back to being here, it's like, if I get through this week, if I can run on this wheel for just this week, I'll get back to the red rabbit hole and doing something I enjoy.
Where it's dark and warm and the bills are very low.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's dark and warm and no one can find me down here. I can hide out down here. And actually, I can discuss the things that I enjoy discussing that maybe aren't always the most appropriate things to bring up at work. Yeah. Let's say that. So, we're back again, aren't we, on The Brother? Part 2.
I promised you a story, didn't I?
Yeah, you left us hanging down this rabbit hole. So, Nikki, the cat hall incident in The Brother. Tell us a little, what is the cat hall incident? Because I don't want to give too much away. So I'm going to hand that back to you to tell us what is that.
So the cat hall is a new estate in the book that's just been built up. And Fallon, the protagonist, goes along to find a new house. She's split up with her boyfriend who she lived with, and she's just trying to piece her life back together. And when she goes, the estate is quite desolate. The estate agent is late. And she meets a man there that says that he works for the site and that he can show her the house. And then things go wrong from there.
Yeah. The minute the scene was set, I was like, no, Fallon, no, absolutely not. Don't go there. But the way you described it, I suddenly thought, yes, a half-built housing estate is absolutely something to be a bit scared of. Yeah, didn't feel comfortable. So what happened to you that kind of inspired this?
Well, it was kind of twofold. So I did have an incident when I was younger that was quite scary, all kind of joking apart, that I was, as you know, when you're kind of little and being in, we're both Northamptonshire born and bred, there's not much to do when we were little around here. And I was about 8 or 9, and the thing to do was to go walking with your friend around the estate. that was the in thing. That's what you did. And
children of the 80s, here we are. Gen X.
Yeah. It was a walkabout where you just talk, and it was just kind of a little bit of exercise, I guess, and got you out of the house. But I was walking around with my friend at the time, my best friend at the time, and this man on a motorcycle pulled up next to us, literally pulled up next to us on the road. and he started talking to us. It was very we're going to talk about predator techniques in this episode, and thinking back, I don't remember every word of it and probably blocked a lot out, but a lot of the stuff he said was very much a case of would you like to go for a ride? And he couldn't take us both because the bike wasn't big enough for both of us, and he was looking at me saying, I'll take you first. Yeah. And my friend was clearly quite naive and saying, yeah, but I'd like to go first. And I'm looking at the bike. Now, fortunately, my mother's voice started ringing in my ear, but it wasn't for the right reason. It was more because never go on a motorbike.
Not strangers, but motorbikes.
No. If he'd have pulled up in a car or something, or even a van, I might have been in trouble. But because he pulled up on a motorbike, and a clown car, she had said to me specifically that she'd once been on a motorbike, I think with my dad. He had like a moped or something, and it was the scariest thing she'd ever done. And she'd instilled that in me through my whole life. And I looked at the bike and went, no thanks. So it wasn't that this is awful to admit, it wasn't that I wouldn't have gone with him. It was because he was on a motorbike that I evaded that. And when I said no, he drove off, and he drove off very quickly. And we got back to the house and relayed the incident quite innocently to my dad and my brother, who then decided that there was something horribly wrong and left the house to go and find him.
Oh, wow. Did they find him?
Yeah. No, they didn't.
And was there anything like reported later on? Did anything happen?
I don't think so. I didn't hear anything, but then again, there was no internet back then. It was kind of hard to keep track of stuff. And I certainly at that age, I wasn't reading the papers.
There was a moment where you were telling that story that I thought it was going to go a slightly darker turn when you said, but my friend was really keen and wanting to go first. And I thought you were going to go, and he relented and she jumped on. And that was the last I ever saw of her.
Yeah. No, she was fine. I was fine. But I can't even remember why she didn't end up going in the end. I think it was because I'd said no. She was like less bothered, or I don't know. I don't know how it worked. Fortunately, I think, like I said, I've kind of blocked out a lot of it, but I do remember being very scared after realizing what could have happened. The kind of flip side was I had that incident, obviously, has been in the back of my mind for a long time, but I went to a local new estate to look at a house once. Nothing
exactly like
nothing untoward happened. I'll just put that out there just to stop the tension. Nothing untoward happened, but it was very dark because it was winter, even though it was like 6 o'clock at night. It was very dark. It was very desolate because no one had moved in yet. And the estate agent was late. And I remember thinking, oh my, and feeling very unsafe, locking myself in the car until he got there. And even when he was showing me around, I didn't feel particularly great. And then that night I had a bit of a nightmare about something similar to how I did Cat Hall and what could have happened.
So from that incident, pretty much wrote itself, did it?
Yeah, between the two, it was kind of just, I had no input really. It just happened all on its own.
Sometimes the words just channel through you.
They do. It's like someone else is doing it. If only that someone could just do everything for me, that would be great.
Yes, if they could write all the books straight off the bat. Wow. So I hear that the first part you told us about, I kind of hear that they're not that scary at the time, but the more you think about them, the more you grow up, and in our case, the more true crime you listen to or look at or read or watch, starts to frame it a different way for you, doesn't it? And you start to go, oh, hang on, was I possibly in that moment quite at risk?
Yeah, well, as an adult, I can look back and say, why did a grown man stop his motorcycle to give a joyride to an 8-year-old child? What a stranger, not even someone he knew, not even, like, what would possess him to suddenly stop in the middle of an estate and say that, because what was he looking to get out of it? Only one thing, really.
Yeah, and you can try and kind of apply some rationale to that, can't you? You can kind of say, oh, maybe, you know, he was a dad and he was excited, he wanted to show off his motorbike, or, you know, he maybe he, you know, did just loads of local kids or something. I'm reaching, but it kind of takes us into what we were going to look at today, doesn't it? Because I really wanted to look at the cat hall incident, because when I read it the first time round, it made me creepy. I felt it. I felt it was creepy, and there were definitely, for me, there were loads of little like I felt like my sense of intuition was kind of going off on Fallon's behalf. Like, no, 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 no. I don't kind of agree with this. Please don't go with Tyler. Fallon, please stop. But then at the same time, I was kind of with her when she was rationalizing it out as to why he might ask these things or say what he did. So tell us about how, because we know it didn't actually write itself. So tell us a little bit more about how you know, what research you did, what rabbit holes you went down to help you write that
Well,
scene.
the very, very long and winding red rabbit hole that I jumped down was thanks to his non-fiction book called The Gift of Fear.
It's a brilliant book. Everyone should read it.
I think it should be taught at school. I really do. I genuinely, all joking aside, I think it should be something that we study from the age of 11, even lower if possible.
Well, 8.
8. Yeah, well, yeah.
Quite possibly 8, yes.
Fortunately, I had my mum's gift of fear at that time.
Yeah.
Don't you get on a motorcycle.
I think it's Gavin deBecker, isn't
Gavin
it?
deBecker, yes.
Gavin deBecker, but we'll put it in the show notes. And to all of our sisters out there and our kind brothers, our nice brothers who want to definitely read it. If you haven't read it, you absolutely should read it.
Yeah, it's all about the techniques that predators will use to gain your trust and to get you in a position of vulnerability, which is ultimately what they want.
The second time I read that scene in The Brother, having then read The Gift of Fear, I could see it in there.
Yeah, it was. I don't know where these predators kind of gain these techniques from, whether it's some sort of website they can all use or some handy distance learning course that they all sign up for, you know, how to trick a victim. But they all seem to use very similar techniques. They are quite similar to sales techniques, I must admit, from my kind of past life as an ad seller. I can tell certain similarities here and there. But I think there's a few that we can probably talk about now, just to give listeners a heads up, just in case they perhaps feel a little uneasy in a situation. Because 9 times out of 10, if you feel uneasy, if your gut is telling you something's wrong, that's the gift of fear. That's saying get out of that situation. And if your gut is saying this isn't normal, something's going on, listen to it and get out, because it's better to look rude, as the girls from My Favorite Murder say, than to get dead.
Yeah, don't be nice. We've said this before. Don't be nice. For my reasons is don't be nice, because, you know, then you won't end up murdered anyway. But just don't be nice and go along with these things, because it is now you've said it. And after I read it, and then I had an incident, and it was probably a safe thing, but somebody approached me and I was getting into a lift because I had a case of equipment with me, and I was about to get into the lift, and someone approached me and said, "Oh, well, it always takes ages, this lift." And in my head, and I would never have thought of that in any other way than just they're making conversation, until I read Gavin deBecker's book. And then I was suddenly like, that's forced teaming. That's because, so in his book, he's got these pins, which are the pre-incident indicators, which are things that perhaps our intuition would pick up on. But because we've sort of lost it a little bit, and we do have a tendency to kind of rationalize these things out a bit, I would usually have seen it as, oh no, he's just making conversation with me. But actually he's putting us into, we've got a shared problem here. This lift takes ages, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Shared moment of, so he's kind of forcing me into teaming. He was quite charming, quite nice. And then the next thing is, oh, I'll help you carry your case down the stairs.
Oh.
Yeah. So then it was the loan sharking, isn't it?
When they're trying to help you, they're trying to offer help, because help obligates you to them. It makes you trust them. There's something, I think it's a Benjamin Franklin quote that talks about favors. So the best thing to do is actually not to do a favor for somebody, but to have them do a favor for you as well. So it works the other way. So if you do a favor for someone, you feel more obligated to them. So it can get flip reversed around the other way. So it's not just a technique of them giving you a favor, it can be them asking you for a favor too. So just be careful that it can go either way. Although, to be fair now, Lisa, all I'm doing is imagining you throwing your box at him and then running like olive oil.
Quite a big box. No, I just held on to it and went, no, I'll be fine. I think it was just, I don't know which part of me it was. I was absolutely rationalizing out, and I was in quite a safe place and quite a populated place. So it wasn't, it's not like I was on a half-built estate somewhere and as the sun goes down waiting for somebody who hadn't come. I was in, and I was in such a location. There's actually security downstairs, so I was within shouting distance of some security guards. In fact, so I didn't think anything of it. But then I don't know. I didn't really think about saying no. I absolutely just said no. I can do it. I'm fine. It's not that heavy. I'll carry it down the stairs. And then the lift came, and we went down in the lift. So we did actually get in together, but he did take my no as a no. Once I said no, I can do it, he left it then. He didn't ask again. Whereas, which is one of the pins, isn't it, if they don't take your no.
My dark little mind there is thinking, what would he get from taking your box from you? He would perhaps get the chance to go to a secondary location with you. So that would be either your car.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Could I wheel it all the way out for you? Yeah.
Or arguably he could have just been a pleasant man.
Yes, absolutely.
Out. And we're just, crushing this gentleman down. And that's not to say that I believe in gentlemen, I believe in chivalry, and I do accept help from everybody. I think that your gut kind of tells you the difference between the two.
Or it just helps you to kind of see it. Because actually, I could have just said yes. And then there would have been a bit of a loan sharking, a bit of like a debt there that could have then continued some conversation and try and go somewhere else. I don't think it was. I think it was too, there were other, actually Gavin deBecker talks about that in his book, doesn't he? The other factors, the other things you would have noticed that would have made you, that would have kind of, I suppose, got your heckles up a bit, kind of got your awareness going a little bit wider than that. As I say, it was an incredibly safe environment, and I do think, and actually, I think there might have been a student, and the students aren't allowed to use the lift. So it may have been that actually he just wanted to take the lift. He didn't want to have to take the stairs, and he thought, well, if I get in with her, then I can take the lift today because I don't want to have to take the stairs. I don't know. It's just the book helped me to frame it in a different way.
And so it should. I think that having that kind of thought process can save your life. I mean, one of the things that I picked up from it was the we, talking in terms of if a stranger starts saying, we should go on the lift together, we should go back to the car park, we should do this. And it's actually a sales technique that's taught to make the other person trust you, that you're a team, you're in it together.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. Have you got any other tips?
It's hard because I made a solemn vow to myself, Lisa, when I learned all these manipulative dark NLP techniques in sales, that I would never use them for evil.
Just to convince my friend to make a podcast with me.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't, did I? I didn't force you.
Oh, yeah, you did. You started saying, we could do this and we could do that. No, you didn't. You didn't. I was chomping at the bit. I was like, oh, yeah.
I tell you what, though, I'll give you a technique that you can use on children that's very good. But children in terms of a benefit, okay?
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Are you writing it down?
I'm on 10. Yeah, that was my pen then. Sorry.
Okay,
I'm
that's
really
okay.
trying to stop touching things when we're recording.
All right.
But that was my pen at the ready because I'm like, I am a desperate parent. If there is anything that is going to help me to I'm trying to think of the right words without sounding too hideous. Help me to convince my children to do things that I need them to do, like go to bed at a decent hour. I'm all for it. I'm absolutely gonna gobble that up.
You are going to love this then, because it
Okay.
preys on how the brain works and how lazy the brain is.
Okay.
So this is the OR technique. So let's say you want your daughter to eat a piece of fruit.
Mm-hmm.
So you'd say, would you like an apple? And she can then say yes or no to that.
Yeah.
Well, we don't want her to have the choice. So instead of saying, would you like an apple? You say, would you like an apple or an orange? Because the brain is so lazy, it won't let you have a yes and no, because then that's a whole new thought concept. It will just go, apple or orange, apple or I'll have an orange.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's very few
I
people that will
see.
then go just no to either. Most people their brain will just naturally be lazy and just have the choice between the two. So for example, for the bedtime, you could say, okay, would you like to go to bed at 6 or 6:30? They're both times you want them to go to bed, but they are
Yeah.
choosing. And also by the act of choosing, they have then, thrown their kind of weight behind that choice. And it becomes their idea too, which is, again, a much larger sales technique of convincing the person that it was all their idea. Which again is another gift of fear technique, is convincing that other person that it's all them. It's all, it's all coming from them rather than
Yeah.
you.
Thing is with my kid, I'd turn around and go, would you like an apple or an orange? And they'd turn around and go, I'd like chocolate. They would just force in a third option. I'm just going to give you a third option there, mummy.
Then that's when you go, do you know what, mate? Not on the table. You've got an apple, you've got an orange. You just got to stand your ground.
When is it you're coming to babysit?
Oh, God. Never.
Absolutely not. I don't blame you. And it's really interesting in the brother, in that actually the brother doesn't really use these techniques. The actual central serial killer in the book doesn't really use these. I mean, he's charming and he's nice. And I kind of, to be honest, when I was comparing the two characters of the brother and Tyler, I really disliked Tyler, but I liked the brother. I was kind of on board with the brother, which is awful because he's a serial killer. Like, why did you make me think that, Nikki? Forced teaming me through the page.
Maybe.
Through the pages of the book.
He was just so arrogant that I don't think he could be bothered to use any. To him, a technique like that would be like, loading the dice or stacking the deck. He likes the hunt, and he wants to think of himself as everywhere he goes, he's the best person in the room. And sometimes that can be wildly attractive because it's all down to confidence. Confident people are generally quite attractive. And I did want because part of the book is in his point of view, what I couldn't have the reader being turned off by him.
Yeah.
I had to have the reader intrigued and almost a guilty pleasure every time they come to, they want his section to come, so they get through the book even quicker because they're thinking, I want to spend time with the brother.
Yeah, so you kind of use some of those techniques on your reader.
Yeah, maybe.
Through the pages, maybe a little bit. Well, he is charming. He does draw you in. Obviously, you don't condone what he does, but he definitely kind of, yeah, like you say, I did want to get to his sections. Or if I was, I'm going to stop reading now. Oh, hang on. I've just seen that we're going back to the point of view of the brother. And yeah, I want to read it.
Yeah, it's all about the hunting aspect. It's the anticipation of the kill too, because if you think about it, in anything, not just obviously murder, but in anything, it's the anticipation will release dopamine. It's like having a good meal. If you know you're going to have a good meal that night, the anticipation of that will release dopamine throughout the day. So you'll look forward to it. That's why you're looking forward to having that meal. And it can be sometimes just as heady or even more heady than actually eating the meal.
Yeah. And there's something about kind of sitting, watching, not being observed. They don't know yet. You know something they don't. And he talks about that, doesn't he? That when the brother is talking about some of his murders, you can hear the delight in his voice. And actually, one last thing to kind of talk about before we finish up this episode. There's one that he goes to and actually is doing that watching and waiting period and gets clocked. And this person's worried about this car outside. It's a female, and they sort of do mention it, but nobody helps.
It's a hard kind of truth, I guess, with the world we live in, that most people won't get involved in something, even if, and the police can't get involved until there's an actual crime committed. They're going to struggle as well. They don't have the resources to be able to preempt crime.
I suppose it comes back to the Gavin deBecker and acting on that instinct. And then also acting on that instinct and being believed. I think something we mentioned actually the last time we met, we were talking about the American Nightmare documentary that we've been watching, and just touched on that thing where women aren't believed. So that's kind of feeds in a bit to, it's almost another way to silence that intuition, isn't it? Because of course it's not. No one's going to believe me anyway.
I mean, the state of the world we live in is quite awful. I mean, I was actually told at a defense class that if you're being attacked, don't shout for help and don't shout rape, shout fire. Because people will come running for fire if they think their stuff's going to get burnt. Because if you shout for help or if you shout you're being raped, no one will get involved. But if you shout fire, it suddenly becomes their problem too.
Oh gosh, that's terrible. That is horrific. Yeah. And I think that attitude is silencing women's intuition in particular. And I'm thinking about cases as recently as the one that happened in lockdown with the police officer.
The Sarah Everard case.
Yeah, the Sarah Everard case. And I think there were lots of additional factors there that probably meant that he could use some of these techniques to lure her, because it was lockdown. She shouldn't maybe have been out. So she was already kind of on that, if an officer's approach, that it gave him a reason to approach her, didn't it? That he wouldn't have had otherwise. But that, that it kind of, the part of our intuition that might say that's not okay, or I don't trust it, something's not right here. Another little, in perhaps in psychology, we talk about kind of the id, the ego, and the super ego, and maybe the id is saying, hang on, something's not right with this, but the super ego is going, oh yes, but you're probably worrying unnecessarily. The likelihood is something's not going to happen, so let's just shush down it. This is going to be fine.
And a lot of the time it is correct. However, it's that one time it's not, that's it, game over. And I'd much rather react in a way that saves my life than in a way that just makes me look less whingy.
Yeah. Be nice. Yeah, don't be nice that's what I say. Don't be nice all the time. I'm not going to have that. I'd rather have, she was a meanie on my on my headstone. She was a meanie and she lived to 105. Then she was very nice. Too nice.
She was too nice and it got the better of her.
It is. Don't be nice.
But I do recommend everybody read The Gift of Fear by Gavin deBecker, because it could save your life. It could save the life of any woman or girl or even man. I mean, it's not just a gender thing. Boys and men can be victims too, and quite often are. They say that a man is actually more likely to get attacked walking at night than a woman.
I didn't know that.
Kind of gangs of lads, I guess, sort of wandering around looking to show off their manliness. I don't know what the hell they're doing, but yeah, the statistics are actually more in the favor of a man being her at night. So, and also I can understand that a man would actually definitely not listen to their intuition, because their super ego is going, oh no, you can handle this, you're a man, you've got muscles. But no matter how many muscles you have, if there's 10 other men behind you.
Yeah. And you're getting told, also I suppose there's the chivalry kind of factor as well, isn't there, that you've got to be the one that would stand up and say something. Kind of works that other way, doesn't it? Or, you can't be seen to be weak or scared or to run away.
There's a definite expectation of the masculine, I guess, on that side as well, as is the expectation for the feminine. But that's a whole nother show, Lisa.
It is, isn't it?
I know we're going to start doing extra episodes, aren't we, called Weird Warrens?
We are, yes.
Where we discuss things a little bit more kind of maybe paranormally or supernaturally, or a little bit kind of weird.
Are they real words?
Yeah, they are now.
They are in the weird warren. Once you've gone down the red rabbit hole, you're stuck in the weird warren.
You're stuck in a very weird warren. So there's probably a lot that we can talk about there and kind of discuss for the listeners.
So if there is, what would be your final closing thoughts on your sharing of The Brother, and the red rabbit holes that you went down around the Golden State Killer, genetic genealogy, the threat assessment kind of systems that we got from Gavin deBecker? When you were writing those books, what would be your final statement for our listeners?
My final statement would probably be more advice than anything else. And I think it would be just to be more attuned to your instincts. I'm not saying you have to listen to them all the time. I'm just saying I think that in modern society, we've become less attuned, especially women, to our instincts and how we should react to things, and how we've been brought up and how we're taught to react. And I would suggest, I mean, obviously there's the whole forensic genealogy thing as well, as, but if you want to learn, I think learning who you are and where you come from is very important. But I think what's more important is to trust your instincts, because if you're in a position where you know something's not right, it doesn't feel right, don't just carry on with it. Get yourself somewhere safe.
Absolutely. Good advice.
Never go to a secondary location. That's the other one.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. As key fact, never go to a secondary location.
Yeah. Your survival odds go down to like 90% or something, that you've got a 90% chance of dying if you go to a secondary location compared to if you stay where you are.
Really? So find it out for the first location.
Yeah.
Don't.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Let's finish there. Thank you for joining us for part 2 of The Brother.
Yes, thanks, guys. I know that was a little bit deep and dark there, but we got through.
we did. We burrowed further. We went down the red rabbit hole, and then we dug ourselves a little tunnel to the side.
And then we got like a little bedroom for our rabbits to kind of sleep in.
And then we took a little trip to the further down to one side.
Yeah, we burrowed up again, and then we were like, where the hell are we? How far did we go?
And are we ever going to get out? Who knows?
We're never getting out.
Well, that's all right. Maybe we'll get out in time to see you again next week.
And we're going to put some notes down below. So if you want to learn a little bit more, then do feel free. And obviously leave us some comments as well. And if you could leave us a good review on whichever site you're looking at, we would much appreciate it, because we are a new podcast.
Please, absolutely. If you've enjoyed it, please let us know.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Thank you for joining us.